Hello out there. And you know, guys, I've been around and making videos on YouTube now for it's got to be over 3 years. I can't even remember, and I guess that's how I know I'm not a new player to the game. Because I've been doing this for a while, and one thing that is sort of fun and interesting to do once you've had as many videos as I have is I like to go back and check out some of the old stuff that I've done and just see if my opinions on things have changed, especially like the discussion videos, the top 5 videos, that kind of stuff. And one thing that I came across recently that I just wanted to follow up on was this Kershaw Westin being my top budget knife in my entire collection. You know, I did this video where I like faced budget knives off against each other and which one was going to be the number one budget knife, and the Kershaw Westin won. And this was a couple years ago, and I got to tell you, that hasn't changed. The Kershaw Westin is still my favorite budget knife. But why is that? And that's the question I want to talk about today. Why is that? It's not necessarily because of the knife. This is a great knife, and I'll talk about it a little bit at the end of this discussion piece. But it's not really because the knife is so great and it just trumps everything else. One of the things that I'm seeing is that we are not getting budget knives in the same price range that this had when it came out. So the parameters for that video 2 years ago, or however long it was the knife had to be under $30. And that $20 to $30 price range, at least in my estimation and from the companies that I buy from, the quality isn't really there anymore. And the number of releases has just started to really just diminish. And so many of the budget knives that we're getting are just like super duper budget with low quality components, or even the good ones, you know, like the Kershaw Decibel. This knife I really like. You know, this is one of my favorite Kershaws of the year in a long time, actually. But this is a $36 knife. So is that a budget knife? For me, I mean, it's budget materials. So I can understand someone calling it a budget knife, but it's not a budget knife. 36 bucks for me, like that's not cheap. And just because I have a lot of knives that are way more expensive than that, like 36 bucks for me is not what I look at when I'm thinking about a budget knife. And that's why when I did that first video, I set the parameters at below 30 bucks. So when you think about like great knives that have come out, you know, things that have been released, the Caligo, again, never going to decide what to call it. This is $32. I think the D2 version's on sale for like $36 right now on Blade HQ, but still, I mean, not a budget knife. What I'm looking for, what I'm always thinking about, is that wheelhouse in the $20 to $30 price range of getting a great knife, and those knives just aren't coming out anymore. You know, occasionally you can go onto like websites and see a lot of discontinued stuff or stuff on sale. There's plenty of them. You know, Kershaw also does have a pretty good line of knives with like the Method here, which I really like. I don't know if you've seen my videos about this knife, but this is a really good one for like 25, 26 bucks. The Fraction, I think you can get right around the $30 price range. So there are some, but what I'm getting at is that more and more, when these companies are releasing new models, they're either over $30, or if they're under $30, they're just not particularly good. Best example of that is the Innuendo I had about a month ago. That was a dud. You can get it for 27 bucks, but why would you? You know, it's not going to win anything on anybody's lists. So it's just a just really interesting trend, the way the market seems to be going. And so often, and I talk about it a lot in videos actually, where I don't necessarily get on board with the people who say, oh, all of these upstart Chinese companies are going to be pushing the CRKTs and Kershaws of the world in a certain direction because of what they're doing. But honestly, more and more, it seems like everyone's just trying to carve out their own niche. And Kershaw and CRKT, they're leaving that price range, and they're not even really necessarily trying to compete with the Ganzos and, let's say, the Kubes. You know, and let me see if I have it right here. I only own one Ganzo Firebird, this one right here. I don't think I have any Kubes at the time, but the reason that I see, at least, that those knives continue to stay popular is one, well, the companies are getting better, sure, but two, like, people want knives in those price ranges. They want to be able to get good knives at pretty low prices. And I feel like this company here, Ganzo, Kube, and a few others are sliding into this big gap that's being created by CRKT and Kershaw and even Boker and those companies sort of pricing themselves out. You know, new release from Boker this year. Really love this knife, the Gust. And hey, people want D2, people want better materials, and this is a beautiful knife, but it's like $50. You know, and it's still overseas, imported, produced, you know what I mean? So, like, that's sort of the direction things are going. Less and less for 20 some odd dollars. Take a look at Civivi. Civivi is exactly like the main streamlined, I guess, priced here that so many people are excited about now is getting a really good knife in the $50 to $60 price range, like this Elementum. You know, and I think Kaiser has the Tangram series. I don't have any Tangrams. They're really good budget knives. A lot of them are over $30 too, even though you can get them on discount. This right here is a brand spanking new knife. This is a CJRB. This is basically going to be Artisan's new like $40 to $50 price range kind of line. So Artisan's jumping in on that game, but they're not going all the way down with budget. So again, we have that huge gap, and every time I come across a knife now that is in the $20 to $30 price range and is good, I just get super excited because I don't see it that often anymore. You know, I was down in Tampa, and I came across the 511 store, and I walked in, and they had this knife for $26. And this one is called the Inceptor. I've got a review coming soon. This is in AUS 8. It's a good knife. You know, and they're doing stuff like this, but more and more, you know, the big brands that I'm used to buying knives from, they're not doing it so much. You know, you'll always have smaller stuff like the Squid. And let me see, what else do I have right here? This Browning that we've talked about, like this is sub $30, but a little bit inferior when it comes to materials, but a good knife. But there just isn't that much to come and compete at the sub $30 price point with my Kershaw Westin. So nothing really competes. So yeah, it's interesting. I mean, and I know that there's plenty of people who probably disagreed with the Westin when I first made the video, and there's plenty of people who disagree with it now and can say this model or that model or this model. And honestly, like over time, I've handled a lot of knives sub $30 that would be right up there with it. So this isn't like the be all end all, the only knife that you can find that's great for under $30. There's a ton of them, but I'm seeing less and less options in that price point that are competitive and well made as time continues to move on. And it's not concerning, it's just a change in things. And again, I think that it just provides this great opportunity for the Ganzo Firebirds and the Kubes to really get some traction in the market. I mean, they can move some units and they can continue to develop, because if they're making money, they'll be able to put more money into their businesses, and who knows? I mean, maybe those will really become legitimate, like, contender companies in the future. I don't know. This is sort of just me riffing, but for those of you who have stuck around this long, let's take a look at this Westin. And let's talk about a few of the things I really like about this knife that make it, for me, still my favorite budget knife. So this is the 3460 Les George design, 8CR 13 MOV. It just has a lot of really good things going for it. And originally the thing that drew me to this design was that I liked the blade shape of the Skyline, but I never liked the Skyline. When the Skyline came out, I had two of them at two different points, and the action on them was just not particularly good. It was manual, which is nice, but they didn't flip particularly well, and I just was not that impressed with the knife. And this blade shape, again, very Skyline-esque, sort of spear pointy with just a, not the spear point kind of grind, but, has that spear point kind of look and a beautiful stonewash. And I thought, all right, well, maybe this, can be a budgety version of the Skyline. Speaking of budget, I think this was like $23, $24 when I first got it. It's like $19.99 right now on Blade HQ, guys. $19.99. It's awesome. And so this is a speed safe assisted opening. Great snappy action. stainless steel frame lock. This knife has been disassembled and reassembled a number of times. If you're worried about disassembling speed safe mechanisms, there are a few of them that are pretty tough. Like I think the thermite and the cryo just aren't like the easiest to put back together. This one is pretty darn easy. So never really had any problem with that. Great deep carry pocket clip. It is a reversible clip. So, I mean, still some real estate, but you have that loop over. So they did a good job there. The knife ergonomically is, I think, what wins it for me. They, I don't know if anyone else remembers this, but they were calling this faux G10. Anyone remember that? They were like marketing these knives as like faux G10. It's plastic, but they wanted you to think that it had like traction similar to G10, and it's really not bad, to be honest. I mean, there's that texturing. If I bring back this this one right here, it's the same material, but just a better traction level, and the deep recesses here really provide good amounts of grip. So anytime I see like this kind of like plasticky material, if you do have these cutouts, you know, it does really help because the stuff is just not grippy and sharp to begin with. So this stuff actually tends to work well. So the ergos with the scale are very good. The guard works out just fine. The jimping is a little bit useless, but it does, if you see that slight slope, so that lip right here is a good little point to try to lock in. It's not perfect, but it's better than nothing. And yeah, relatively easy just to touch up and sharpen because of the blade shape. It's just a winner in 20 bucks. And, you know, I've said this about, you know what I said this about? CRKT had a run a year or so ago where they were putting out some great just stainless steel frame locks at budget prices. I'm trying to think, like the Buku, and there were a couple Voxnezes, and the Liangma Remedy, which might have been like $33 or $34. But there were a lot of them that were just executed well, well-built, stainless steel frame locks. And I always said, they have the formula, just keep doing it, keep pumping this stuff out. And they've sort of slowed on that, but that's really the key here, is that the formula is right here. It's super simple, and I say super simple as someone who has no engineering background or experience, but it just doesn't seem like they're reinventing the wheel. You know, it's a very, very basic kind of lockup. The structure is just sound and basic. So I just don't see why, you know, you couldn't make variations from this design for forever and sell it at this price point for forever and have a good knife. And that's sort of not the way things are going. And as much as I really do like knives like this, and I mean, I really like this knife, guys. This is one of my 10 favorites of the year. Without a doubt, 10 favorites of the year. As much as I like this, there's just always going to be room for a knife of this quality in like the $25 price range. And why companies either are not willing or are not able to see what worked here and replicate that with slight changes in design in order to make it appeal to different people. I mean, that just it just sort of blows my mind. I don't have an insight to how the manufacturing system works, but I mean, I think, man, I mean, we've got the basics for a formula that could make us very successful because this is a great knife. But just doesn't seem to be the case and doesn't seem to be the way that the market's progressing and trending. And it's something that I noticed and just wanted to share with you guys. So what do you think about budget knives? What do you think about Kube? What do you think about Firebird? What is your definition of a budget knife? Am I off in saying that it's a $30 or less thing? Because maybe at the time of the video, it seemed to be a $30 or less thing, and maybe what a budget knife is now has increased in price. Let me know your thoughts, guys, and any other questions, comments, complaints, suggestions. Hey, I'm here to talk to you. I would really appreciate it. So I'll talk with you soon. Take care and have a good one.